afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second and most interesting panel discussion of Containers India 2020. Before I introduce our panelists, I would like to once again convey my gratitude and thanks to our sponsors and partners, presenting sponsor being Alcargo Logistics, and strategic partner is Container Shipping Lines Association. Knowledge partner is Drewry Maritime, technology partner NICDC Logistics Data Services, international terminal partner South Asia Gateway Terminals, innovation partner is Linkit, and we have special session sponsors Haropa Ports, Bhatia Shipping, and Kamar Automation. And finally, the organizations that have supported us, AMTOY and CFSAI. During these tough times, these organizations have backed up us to bring you this edition of Containers India 2020 without interruption through this video platform. So we had a first session where we had shipping lines and terminals and Concor sharing their perceptions and experiences of COVID pandemic, and we have made a presentation on the container trade scenario in India. How was the throughput? How much we have been hit by COVID scenario, and what would the way forward? The surge in freight rates of carriers, and how long this will continue? These kind of issues. Now the second session is more towards as we discussed. How do we prepare for this kind of unexpected scenarios? Because we have already passed through 7 months of this pandemic, and whether this calls for an agile business strategies or re-engineering our strategies, and how to adapt to the rapid changes, and what qualitative change has actually brought in, like digitalization and focus on security aspects. What is the kind of qualitative change that, or maybe even running the enterprises also, our mindset must have changed. That we would like to, and ultimately, what is the path to recovery, either from the government side or private enterprises? How do we look at the path to recovery? So we have esteemed panelists here, Mr. Anand Swarup, IAS, Joint Secretary, Logistics Department of Commerce, Ministry of Industry and Commerce, Mr. Anil Devli, Chief Executive Officer, Indian National Ship Owners Association, and Mr. Dhruv Kotak, Managing Director, JM Bakshi Group, Mr. Prakash Tulasani, Chief Executive Officer, CFSICD Alcargo Logistics Limited, and Captain Ram Iyer, Indian representative for Haropa Ports. And finally, let me introduce Mr. Shantanu Bhatkankar, President, Association of Multimodal Transport Operators of India. So this particular session, I have requested Mr. Shantanu Bhatkankar to moderate. So over to Shantanu ji.
Thank you, Ram Prasad, and Namaskar everyone. This is the first new normal. Is everyone has started greeting with Namaskar, and we have all adapted, or rather adopted, as Ram Prasad would like to say it. We will come to it later on. I think this is one time where we are fighting on three fronts, which is economy, the world as a whole, not India, a pandemic, and border tensions, and uncertainty, and the high economic cost of the border tension. Yes, I think I saw the biggest broad smile on Mr. Anand Prasad, Anand Swarup face while we were interacting. I think that's a new normal. We have shown that we are more confident, we are able, and I think we have seen over the years that best of Indians comes not when things are going well. Our best comes out in crisis. It's I would say indication of professionalism, as I hear from commentators of various sports, that the professionals and amateurs difference is in crisis, in pressure situations, professionals excel. And we have a panel of professionals, and we will be taking all the questions. And just to give another platform to the discussion is, if we go back 1965 war, the great Prime Minister Shastri Ji, who led us with great ability, he had appealed to Indians to skip one meal. and USA had threatened us to suspend PL-48 aid. Today, our situation is our granaries are full. On the other hand, US had requested us to supply the anti-malaria drug to them. So we can see that a lot of new normals are being set, and the term I had discussed with Ram Prasad by email, whether you want us to adopt new normals or adapt new normals. So our idea is we are going to be the trendsetters, and we are going to adopt new things and let rest of the world follow us. So my appeal to all our panelists who are brilliant thinkers, brilliant leaders, is to come out with new things, and we should ensure that we don't say anything that people have heard, because there is a fatigue of webinars now. So let's talk fresh things, bold things. Even to Mr. Anand Swarup, a bureaucrat, I would say be bold. Maybe we are wrong sometimes. In businesses, we say 20 to 25% of the ventures are successful and balance fail. Failure is not a crime. So we want even the government to be bold. Maybe one of the plans, one of the objective fails. It's okay to fail. It's not okay not to try. So with this, I think I have shared my ideas. And one more thing is, we hear two words. One I have already used is new normal, and second is a black swan event. So whether it is a black swan event or black swan reaction is something we have to see. Probably pandemics have happened. This time the world has reacted differently. And we can go back to Bombay pandemic or Pune pandemic, which have a big place in history in the political movement. So with this, I think I will have our panelists share their thoughts and ideas on you. And as participants, I would request that please post your questions on Q&A, because it will not be possible for me to check both chat and Q&A simultaneously to ask your questions to the panelists. So please ensure if you have any questions, please put them in Q&A so that we can address it to the concerned panelists, or the panelists themselves also can take a look at it when we come to the Q&A session. With this, let me begin with Mr. Anand Swarup. I think we will appreciate if you can share the thought process in the government post-COVID. And given the benchmark, we want to be a Vishwa Guru. What are the things India will adopt and expect us as entrepreneurs to adopt, or the society to adopt, so that we use this adversity to our advantage? And already our image is good. How do we enhance it? Comparatively, our economy is better. Not that economy is doing great this time, but still, how do we do better? Please share, and please set the basis for entire discussion to follow. To you, Mr. Anand Swarup, floor is yours.
Thank you, Shantanu-ji. Esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me thank Mr. Ram Prasad for this opportunity to interact with all of you and to listen to what's happening on the logistics space. So far as this pandemic is concerned, it is unprecedented, at least in our lifetimes. It happens rarely, but there are a lot of learnings from this pandemic, and how do we capitalize on those learnings? One, of course, as you mentioned, the buzzword now is the resilient of supply chains. Countries are looking at diversifying their supply chains. They don't want to be heavily dependent on one country or one region. And therefore, that offers much more opportunity for India to integrate into the global supply chains. You must have heard about a recent initiative between Japan, India, and Australia, where they are very closely looking at India as one of the options of diversifying their supply chains, moving away from China and looking at India and other ASEAN countries. So that's one. The second, of course, is about the digitalization of the entire supply chain. Still, we have the bill of ladings in the paper format, the proof of deliveries in the paper format. So can we do something on digitalization? In the Department of Commerce, we've already done some work on that. There's a talk going on with the Banks Association, with the Customs, with the Foreign Dealers Association, with the FFFAI, to how do we move from a paper copy to a digital bill of lading. A notification would be issued shortly once most of the stakeholders agree. So that's one. The second on digitalization is, in the Government of India, we are trying to, on a map of India, put the entire inventory of infrastructure, that where are my logistics parks, where are my industrial parks, where are my agri parks, where are my road network, where are my rail network, and then to see how is the commodity flowing in India and what is the average time which a commodity flow takes in India, be it exports, be it imports, or for domestic. So that's the other digitalization initiative that we are taking. The third issue is, which we are working on, is a comprehensive National Logistics Act. Presently, we have 4-5 different acts. You have a separate act for road, separate carriage of goods act by carriage of goods by road act. You have a carriage of goods by sea act. You have an airway carriage by air act, etc. Can we have a one comprehensive act where we take out the things from those acts and come up with one common act? The liability is fractured in India. Every mode has a different set of liabilities. Can we have a common liability across modes? So that's one, a concept paper we have developed. We'll be sharing it very shortly with these stakeholders to seek their comments and then move to the next stage of the development of that act. There is a realization in government also that self-regulation is the best regulation, and how far we can promote self-regulation in this sector. How do these associations start acting as the bodies who discipline their members and also start solving problems, dispute resolution to conciliation. So that's one idea on which that would be the part of the act. We are also thinking whether there is a need for an ombudsman or not for the logistics sector. The other thing in the act would be about should we not have a common, presently we do not have a national registry of logistics service providers. Should we have a common registry that every logistic provider in the country has to get registered with the Government of India, so that you know who is the service provider and what service are they providing? The other issue on which we are working on, we are creating a digital platform for warehousing. We are calling it warehousing on the cloud, to map the entire warehousing in the country. What is the service which they provide? What is the level of equipment do they have? So these are some of the broad ideas on which we are working on, and we look forward to that interaction. And the other big issue, which is the silver lining from this, is that there's a lot of reform which is happening in the railway sector. If you look at now, they are talking about running timetabled freight trains, timetabled parcel vans have already started moving. The minister is now working on a zero-based timetable where dedicated paths would be allotted to the freight trains. A lot of automobiles have started moving on the railways. Now railways is being used to transport automobiles not only in India but also to Bangladesh and to Nepal. So that's one thing which has also happened. And people are now talking about a multimodality. The Prime Minister in his 15th day address talked about multimodality. The Prime Minister has talked about creating a national logistics map for plan for India. We are talking to the states to develop state logistics plan. So this pandemic has brought to the center stage the importance of supply chains and their resilience. And I hope something good would come out in years to come. Thank you so much. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Mr. Anand Swarup. You have taken exactly 5 minutes. I don't know whether you have kept a timer. I keep a timer as a moderator, but you have timed your opening remarks, and it's a very content-intensive opening remark. I think you have touched so many issues that we will require one webinar for each of it, and we will be in touch for it. Particularly when Prime Minister speaks about supply chain resilience and multimodalism, it is music to our ears. when you speak about self-regulation and national registry, it is also music to our ears. We will definitely engage with you very closely, and these new platforms have enabled us to have more frequent engagements. So we'll be in touch with you, and we will come for questions and another round after this. I think one segment which has been heavily affected, partly benefited, partly hurt is shipping lines. We can see there is a shortage of containers, there is a shortage of space. So obviously there is an opportunity for growth and good revenue. Maybe it also has stopped the attrition that was happening. So I will request Mr. Anil Devli, who is the CEO and very familiar face for all of us, for impact of COVID on Indian shipping, Indian ship operators, and also if you can then cover the impact on seafarers, and with a perspective what has changed and what we would like to change and what change we will bring about. And please conclude all this in 5 minutes, Anil.
Thank you, sir. Too many things to finish, but I'll certainly try and be as quick as I can. One of the most important lessons I think we as an industry learned is that there's nothing like a bad situation. I can see Dhruv smile, and I particularly noticed that because it was agents like Jem Bakshi who stood along with us, became partners to ship owners, and helped us achieve what we had to achieve. And I'm very proud to say here today that regardless of what anybody else feels about Indian shipping, not one day did our ships stop working. All the fuel, all the kerosene, all the petrol that drives our cars today, the food, even the tiles and the marbles, and all kinds of stuff which we don't see relevant at all, everything continued to move. There's nothing like a bad situation. I'm happy personally by this because India finally recognizes the need for a strong, robust Indian shipping company. And we have been able to achieve that thanks to our partners. And I once again say thanks to Jem Bakshi, not just as Jem Bakshi, but representing agents all over, our Indian agents who have stood by us and helped us in the trades that we do. But having said this, I think it's exceedingly important for us to also recognize what other countries are doing. And I do not know if any one of you is aware that the European Union has begun a process where they will start an exchange traded scheme, which means that all ships, whether foreign, whether owned by Europeans or not, which when they come into Europe, there will be a levy that will be charged for the so-called carbon that these ships will emit. That money will be charged as tax by Europe, and Europe will then use that money for the purposes of funding COVID-19 remedies within their own country. I mean, here is a group of nations who is going to tell all other ships who are going to come into their country that you are coming in and polluting my country, and I'm going to tax you for that. So this is how internally people are looking at, and therefore I think one important lesson that we all need to understand is that there is nothing wrong in working policies that support your own country. Just yesterday, for example, China came up with a policy to say that if a seafarer has been changed, an Indian seafarer has been changed in the past 30 days, a vessel cannot berth at Zhoushan port in China. Now, we can get very angry about it, but as far as they were concerned, they're right. They're saying that there is a spurt in COVID in your country, and we need to protect ourselves. So once again, I will say one lesson, very important lesson learned is we must protect what is India, Indian industry, Indian companies, and growth in India. The other lesson that we learned is how our Director General of Shipping stood along with us. And as much as the world can sit down and say so many things about them, I can tell you, sir, and all of you standing here, that I can salute my DG 1,000 times over. The DG, their officers were available 24/7. The DG was available 24/7 on Zoom, and we've been able to do business again only because of our DG. But having said this, there were others also who took terrible advantage of the situation and continue to do so. There are authorities who force us to put people in certain types of hotels only and refuse to accept hotels that have been approved by ICMR. There are authorities who ask us to do laboratory tests from only certain laboratories and will not accept ICMR laboratories. Lessons learned that we can be as terrible a race of people as we want to be. And I don't know what kind of mother or father, raises these kind of children who can make merry over somebody else's misery. Just to share with you, the cost of a crew change has gone up by 3 times. And this is not to do anything with our agents. This is so-called speed money that we have to pay, sundries as we all know them, 3 times over. Lessons learned. Unknown people have become heroes. Huge lesson learned. A small company like a company called Ocean Sparkle, I don't know how many of you would have heard about it. It's a small company, owns tugs, has 108 tugs in India, carried out a crew change of 10,000 crew at Anchorage at Cochin. Small crew, 10 people inside a vessel at night, standing alongside in the middle of the sea. The seafarers themselves putting themselves at risk in getting down, our crew taking them, all of them heroes. So you can't, yes, and even I'd like to clap for all of them. Fantastic people. Seafarers terribly impacted because of this inability to have crew change. They've been stuck on vessels. Some of them have been stuck on vessels for as many as 13, 14 months continuously. Just now, before all of this was happening, I'm now struggling with a vessel which is stuck in Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka has all of a sudden decided that they are not going to allow crew change. So we've got 23 people sitting in a place in Sri Lanka, not knowing what to do. Vessel is alongside, cannot sign off. Lessons learned. At a time like this, uncertainty rules like hell. So try and plan for eventualities, but you probably can plan for nothing. Last lesson that I'd like to talk about is, before we apply a lot of rules, we ought to consider the overall impact of these rules. We were perhaps the only country in the world that applied force majeure at ports. Only country in the world that applied force majeure. What it has done is, and somebody has to do the study, we know it because our vessels get fixed, all cargoes coming into India paid a premium during that period, because no ship owners was willing to pick up a cargo to come into India, because he knew that there was force majeure, no detention, no demurrage would be payable. A vessel could come and stand outside a port without any responsibility, without any need to pay, and therefore people were reluctant to accept cargoes for India. I think one has to be very, very careful before we take up any kind of legal positions. One has to understand the larger impact of all of this. Last, most important lesson that I learned personally is, I'm not important at all. Office is not working. I'm not going to office. The Indian shipping industry runs like crazy. Nobody cares whether I'm there or not. That's perhaps one of the most important lessons that I learned for myself. And I'm thankful to all of this. So with that smile and good thought, and thank you very much for listening to me patiently. I hope I have kept within my time. Thank you.
Thanks, Anil. It was a leveler to remind us that we are not important. And yes, I think it's a big, big message. And it's a new normal that we realize that offices work without us and people can work from home. But this is all talked about a lot.
That's a step that the logistics ministry is doing. I think that's a step that the shipping ministry is doing. I think across the board, I think once we figure out how to make sure that the governance and how we dispense governance, and it's already happening in our country. We're doing it in taxation, we're doing it in customs, we're doing it in so many places. The moment we move towards more and more digitization within and governance within digital governance, I think we will be, I would say halfway there. But the other half is equally critical, and that's when I refer to the book that Mr. Jai Shankar, what he says. And what he says is that it's time for us as India to stamp our authority and know what our power is, which means today, why are we suffering in terms of lack of container inventory available for our exporters? Why? What can we do to be more and more self-resilient? What can we do to ensure that our exporters are in a position to continue exporting in this type of period? How can we ensure in the overall global supply chain, like you mentioned, Anil, in the case of the EU, what can India do to try and make sure that our supply chain remains resilient and strong in pandemics and even in unpandemics, so that it remains strong without, of course, impeding someone's freedom for carrying out business and doing that? What are some of those steps? Regulation is one of them. But the second step is also creating domestic champions in the fields of shipping, domestic champions as freight forwarders, domestic champions and encouraging them in ports and logistics, but also on the digital front. We've got to create domestic digital champions and across the spectrum who are capable of providing very high degree of services across this new digital governance framework, which I know the government is working hard towards providing. We will have to do that. Now, how do we encourage? I think the first step is exactly what logistics department, and I remember both Anand Swarup sir as well as Pawan sir, from day one they've been saying the idea is we must let digital businesses and digital ecosystems flourish. Let's create an enabling environment and let them flourish. And I think that's the superb step that they're doing. The same thing with the Ministry of Shipping. They're encouraging the same step to try and bring in more and more entrepreneurs into this space and more Indian entrepreneurs into this space, so that you have that strong local, resilient digital ecosystem, which can then protect, I would say, the overall country in terms of when chips are down and when things are tough. I would say the second element of it, which we also need to think of, and when you said things like cyber security, and again, why am I talking about Indian companies, is we will need to start creating a huge avenue available for different companies, whether they are in the cyber security space, whether they are in the development space, whether they are in the market space, whether they are in the actual service provision. We will have to find, along with government, how we can encourage Indian companies in Startup India, linking it into the maritime and the commercial program of how we can encourage these companies through various fiscal, non-fiscal, monetary, non-monetary routes, how they can be encouraged to do this. I think we have to, double down our efforts to making sure that there isn't just one, Dhruv or JM Bakshi or Portal, but there are thousands of companies who are in this space, and the future of LSPs should be digital service providers who are there, and we have the talent pool to be able to do that. The second piece, which is very critical, and when I mean regulation, I mean that the government needs to regulate not pricing, but regulate participation in data sharing, in collaboration and participation on a platform. And I would dare say government, and that's the beauty of the Indian government. Indian government doesn't want to restrict and doesn't want to overimpose itself in terms of like some other nations do, and they do, other nations do it. But our country and our government doesn't want to impede on the way your business is conducted, how your commerce is conducted. But what we need to do is we need to put our strong will forward in the Indian way and say, listen, this is the data sharing. These are some of the critical norms which are important for the nation and the ecosystem as a whole. These are the areas where we draw the line and everyone must comply. Whether you are a foreign company, Indian company, any service provider, you need to share, you need to provide a single place where you are doing a participative norm. This is very, very important.
Us taking the leadership and us setting the trends and being confident and not expecting someone else to do something for us. It's we taking the charge of destiny. Thanks. But Dhruv, I will come back to you in the second round for cyber security challenges and how to deal with it. I think we will have some time for it. Now, our next stalwart is my old friend, Captain Ram Iyer. And Ram, I'll get to you later on. I think it's Prakash Tulsiani. Prakash, now you have multiple verticals in logistics, Indian, international, I think almost in 90 countries. So, will you be able to just give us an idea of impact of trade imbalance on all the segments of logistics, like ports is one, CFS is another, trucking is one, air is another, and I think I don't need to give you list. Custom broker is one. There are so many stakeholders. So can you give one all within 5 minutes? So speak as fast as you can, and if you still can cover any ideas of how do we re-engineer our processes.
Thank you, Shantanu-ji. Can you hear me well? Because earlier there was a challenge, yes. And thank you to Ram Prasad for organizing this, and everyone on the panel. Good afternoon to you and everyone who's on this meet that we have. First of all, it is very important to come in and acknowledge and honor our warriors, the COVID warriors that we had. I think Anil did mention about heroes. I call them as COVID warriors and heroes. They were the ones who actually led and ensured that actually the businesses continue in logistics. Whether they were drivers, they were those supervisors like the surveyors or the customs authorities, or even, the operators. These were the guys who actually let the business continue for us. Especially when the ports were declared as essential services, and so were the CFSs. So we were involved in doing the business from day one when things were not very clear on what does this lockdown mean? Who will be allowed to come and work and who will not be? We still had these warriors, the heroes, who were out there and ensuring that the businesses continue. So going forward in any of those, whether it is going to be, shipping or customs house broker or CFSs or transportation, the focus has to be on HSE, health and safety and environment. Otherwise, these things does not give confidence. If this is not in place, it does not give confidence to the front line, team members, and especially our warriors, because they need to get that confidence that yes, someone is looking after me and things will fall in place. And only with this HSE can we go and deliver what we need. A lot has been talked about digitization by the previous panel speakers, and definitely digitization is the most important one. Why? Because it gives the power to the customer to conduct their business independently. And this is very important in any of these links which we have. So digitization, I'll not go into depth because it has already been talked about. What is very, very important otherwise also is that to recognize that frontline team member, like for example, driver, how much importance did we give that particular member of the team in the past? I think it is extremely important to, make them as partners in the business, in the sense completely involved, completely, taking care of them. Here, there were issues which I heard about where there were people, those who were staying there were not allowed to come out of their villages because of the fear which was there in the minds of the other villages that you go to work and come back, you may bring COVID back to the village. So definitely that is something that one needs to take care for all our, logistics chain, the entire logistics chain. Similarly, IT security, which you're going to take up separately, I would say, because there has to be governance rules and how to protect ourselves, because everyone moving on to the IT, some of them do not have, the platforms which are up to the mark. And what happens is that it gives a field day for the hackers. I mean, we heard about large shipping companies going through this problem. I mean, this is not uncommon. It is not that it does not happen in non-COVID era, but it is what it is today. I would not call this as a new normal, but I would call this as a new abnormal. Actually, we are into a new abnormal right now, and things need to be looked at it very differently. Moreover, I would say we talked about, I think Dhruv talked about skilling. I would say when you are doing the skilling, look at multi-skilling, because this is what happened when we came into a halt or a stage where people were unable to come to report to work. If a person can do one or two more tasks, or at least has some knowledge of doing it, then at least we'll be able to ensure that we continue with our logistics chain and nothing comes to a complete standstill or a halt. The other thing is, as we look always, and that is our competitors actually can become our partners. So aggregation becomes very important in any of the chain which we have. So aggregate with the others, because we need to use that capacity and the capability that we have within our own chain, and this is what I think we learned as we, felt the tremors of this particular pandemic. The other point is communication, the crisis communication and disaster recovery. I mean, those were probably prepared, but they had to come to use now. And it is extremely important that we continue to take a very close look at the disaster recoveries and the crisis communication, because it's very important to have that information flow, the transparency which is needed, so that the cargo owners and many others who are in the chain can understand what it is and what is happening around us. Again, a lot has been spoken about the bottlenecks and the policies and other matters. I leave that. And finally, I would say, that it is very, very important that, what we have learned is all about innovation, intellect, and technology. For example, in our own organization, as you talked about, that we are present in more than 160 countries as EQ, we have developed EQ 360, which powers our customers to act independently. And this is exactly what is needed for end-to-end logistics. And finally, at least, representing the CFS division, I would say we have come out over there and shown that we are the reliable partners of the logistics industry, where we could ensure that the country EXIM does not come to an halt. And especially when the ports were getting full, we were able to take away the load out of them and create that space for the vessel turnaround to happen. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Prakash. In second round, we'll touch some detailed issues, maybe one specific issues.
Sure.
And Ram, Captain Ram represents Haropa Ports. And you are the last, because I know a lot of questions will be raised about ports and role of ports during COVID. I think you can speak about impact on Haropa Ports, global ports, and give us perspective about what ports will do in future for ensuring that we are more resilient supply chains and deal with pandemics and such unexpected situations. So, Ram, floor is yours. Please conclude in 5 minutes.
Thank you, Shantanu-ji. Thank you, Ram Prasad-ji, and the eminent panelists all across. Swaroop-ji he has kickstarted and he has set the tone for the thing, how in India we can literally be the leaders, ensure path-breaking moves in logistic industry. Well, where I come from, this is where it is. We need to share. We need to learn from the best practices globally. And this is where I come in. COVID-19 pandemic has literally changed the shipping industry and is reshaping the industry's commercial, security, safety, what have you. The whole thing is being reshaped now. The industry is learning, adapting to this new reality. It is just not a sports, it is the shipping, like what Prakash just talked about, the various things, how things are literally changed, and how everyone, each and everyone, you, me, everyone is devising new methods of working virtually and remotely in real time. And this is where keeping pace with the operational changes and suiting ourselves, changing ourselves to clients' need is the way we operate. Shipping is the essence of global trade, and ports are the gateway to EXIM trade, and exporters are important. Importers are the key into this. At Haropa, what we did, this is the dominant motto has been to support customers in that development and strategy. The main people who are getting affected are the exporters and importers. We all, the others, the logisticians are all the various players
ensuring the global trade. The importers or exporters, they are the thing. What is clear that nothing is going to be the same again. There is what everyone is talking about, new normal, and there is like COVID-19 is a perfect thing of what we call as the continued VUCA. We have been talking about VUCA for a long time, but this is the real VUCA when you really do not understand, and every day you are learning newer things. And we are to come up with newer operational issues and the newer operational strategies, and new risk and a new risk environment comes in, how we are going to take care of each and everything. The pandemic has highlighted the digital role in driving tomorrow's safe, secure, sustainable outcome for global exit sector. Use of technology in response to COVID-19, this is what this provides powerful lessons on digitalization's potential to drive this entire spectrum of global trade, and especially global shipping and the global shipping logistics. At Europa, we based our action on 3 guidelines: being global, being digital, being smart, and being green. The role of ports and harbors will be decisive, and we will need to give that push to the key economic sector. Like in India, if you are talking about it, is like Anand Swarupji really said the thing. It is about agro industry. We need to push the various things for the agro industry or the pharmaceutical industry, which are the things which need to be pushed. When we talk about the 3 core sector being global, we need to ensure a regular maritime offer. The shipping lines do come on time with competitive transit time. There are regular, and adapting the ports infrastructure with the reduced availability of drivers or queen drivers to accommodate, to ensure that everything is taken care of, no exim trade is not affected. And also at the same time ensuring that the multimodal connections to the inland continues currently, because the cargo doesn't begins or ends with at the ports. This is what we try to ensure, and this is where even in India, Concord did a phenomenal job when the road transit, where the road movement was getting difficult, where the railways came into hand. Second thing is we are talking about being digital, connected systems. What me personally have been involved with the PCS in India, this is where Haropa has taken the lead over the last 20 years, and PCS TCS cargo communication system providing real-time information, a collaborative system, and which will provide the stakeholders, all across stakeholders, a safe and secure movement of goods, and also ensuring cybersecurity. At the same time, you need to ensure that you can monitor what is happening. When you have an effective PCS system, you can monitor what is happening. Literally, the KPIs can be targeted. This is where we came in. We were one of the first ports in Europe to ensure KPIs, and not only for the logistic players, for each and every exim player, whether it's importer, forwarder, or everyone, all are part of this KPI things, which is facilitated by the PCS system. This enables improvement and to see where the bottleneck lies. And the last point is being smart and green. End of the day, it's all about, this is the time when we all collectively need to reduce our carbon footprint, how we can adapt to that. And Haropa has taken a lead in this one. And in fact, recently in the WCAP meeting, a group of 11 major ports, 5 from Americas, 5 from Europe, and 1 Yokohama got together. They didn't wait for IMO. They said, like, we will do our own, like including electrification and various other things to reduce the carbon footprint with a definitive timelines. I will stop at that and I'll go on to the next one. Thank you.
Thanks, Rama. I think I have some questions from all of you, but there is a very interesting question posted by my colleague Jarsis Master, who is our Vice President of Employ. I think he has asked a question and he has asked you to do some crystal gazing and come out with answer. What will be the impact throughout 2021, and what do you see how volumes and revenue will be seen in 2021, whether we can have 2019 volume or maybe our peak volumes in 21. I think 1 minute reaction from everyone, and then in the meanwhile, if Mr. Anand Swarup, starting with you, you have any ideas on 2021 forecast?
Yeah, we are always very optimistic. If you look at exports in the month of September, we've already 5% up than last year. If you look at all port performances, most of the port performance is above the last year. And so I'm very hopeful, as people talk about that in India, we'll have a very V-shaped recovery. There are a lot of green shoots where most of the sectors in the economy are showing many encouraging trends. So I'm very confident that 2021 would be much better than 2019.
Thank you. I think we appreciate optimism. It's much required. I think before I move, I will ask two questions I have in mind, and other panelists can also equip themselves for answer on this question. Mr. Anand Swarup, there are two important issues, if you can share in 3 minutes. One is about, give us idea about National Registry of Logistics. What is the thought behind it? How do we go ahead with it? And second, I think what's being discussed in media, and even I personally see it that way, that agricultural reforms will be comparable to 1991 reform for manufacturing and industry. So how do you see its impact on logistics? You being primarily responsible for logistics doing Commerce Ministry, and how would you like the logistics sector to look at this sector? Probably this is one of the big things which we are yet to realize. So maybe I think you just enlighten all of us about thinking in the ministry, and if you like your own personal thoughts about it.
So thank you, Shantanu ji. So far as the National Registry for Logistics Service Providers is concerned, there are a lot of gaps. Of course, customs brokers are registered with the customs, and the multimodal transport operators are registered with DG Shipping. But transporters, especially on the road, they are registered either as a partnership or as a company, but they are not registered as a service provider. Similarly, freight forwarders are not registered as a service provider. So the purpose is that there should be a national registry where any or every single logistics service provider should get registered. And that should be a very simple registration process. Maybe your PAN number is good enough as your registration number. So the things which we are thinking about at the moment is what should those entry barriers should be. Should there be entry barriers or should not be entry barriers? Should there be certain limitations on the assets which you own? But if you put only assets, then what about NVOCCs or only aggregators? Then should we talk about the turnover which you should have to get registered? So that's the thinking which is presently on. But there is most of the ministries agree that there should be a national registry and every single logistics service provider should get registered. Within this, there is also a provision of excellent logistics service providers, which could be on the basis of the customer feedback, on the basis of your performance, where we'll have excellent service providers. We could also think about national logistics awards, so those companies get awarded. So that's on the national registry which you talked about. The second, on agri-logistics, the Commerce Ministry has already issued a national an agri-export policy where we are targeting to improve our agri-exports from 30 billion to 60 billion over the next few years. So that's one. Another big reforms have already taken place in the agri space. 1 lakh crore has been earmarked for development of the logistics only for agriculture. So that is also a big chunk of money that would be spent in improving the agri-logistics sector. We got a study recently conducted through NCR to see what are the logistic costs in India compared to across sectors. And agri is one sector which has the highest logistic cost. They have estimated it is around 21% of the sales price. So there is a lot of room available to bring down logistics cost and bring in efficiencies in agriculture.
Thank you, sir. I think these are all things we will get back to you, and we hope that this also creates big opportunities in export of agri products. And during this, uh, uh, I would say shutdown, I would say the growth in agri sector, the agri products has been phenomenal. So those who handle these products have seen phenomenal growth. So
Pharma and agri have been even during the times when our exports were down, pharma and agri were the ones which were actually lifting them up.
yeah.
Especially rice exports.
So we can only add emphasis about the growth of this sector. Thanks, sir, for these inputs. And Dhruv, coming back to you, I think you are crystal gazing for 2021. And also, while you do that, please, I would say, come with some ideas and sharing or maybe suggestions for everyone getting secure as far as cyber security is concerned and dealing with the challenges, risk mitigation of digitization. Can you deal all this in 3 minutes?
No, absolutely. I think, first of all, I think Mr. Ramprasad would remember we had a interview, I think maybe a month, maybe even 2 months back. And at that time, he asked me in terms of what I believe will be the economic situation. And I'm very, very clear that it's going to be a V-shaped recovery in India. And by the way, the data is already pointing towards that. So I completely agree with what Anand sir is saying. And Anand sir is, I think, being modest because I think they are tracking that data and they know that data. And they can see the writing is pretty much on the wall in terms of how quickly India is going to not just bounce back, but create a very new base. And 2021 is going to be probably the strongest year we have seen in a long time. So my comment to my friend Xerxes is, Xerxes, get ready, get more containers, set up more depots, whatever Xerxes does. I think business is going to be great for Xerxes for sure. So I don't think it's crystal ball gazing. I think the data is already reflecting that. And I think again, just the extension of what Anand sir said, I think the government has been so proactive in India in terms of coming up with a number of reforms and pushing them through. Whether it's the various agri bills, which I think is going to transform the logistics sector in that space for sure. But I think it's also going to increase the export competitiveness that we're going to see in that space. So you're going to see a huge volume jump up there for sure. But I think when you go even deeper in terms of what's happening with the railways, what's happening with overall infrastructure, the national infrastructure pipeline, and just look at the overall focus that's there as far as India is concerned, I think we're going to see a huge jump next year. And I think for our trade, I think one point which I think Anand sir had brought up, and I want to just highlight that, and we are tracking that, is that there is a change in supply chain. And I'm going to say it openly, there are going to be two supply chains in the world. There's going to be a supply chain which is going to be China-centric, and there's going to be a supply chain for the rest of the world. And I think India is going to play a massive role in that shift. And it's already happening. Again, you asked Anand sir, once this round is over, please ask Anand sir that the data is already pointing in that direction where India is going to play a very significant part in that new realigned supply chain. You can ask, I think, Prakash that question as well, because they're a global company and they can see that shift already happening. So I think from an India perspective, I think 2021 is going to be tremendous. And all of us within Amtoy, all of us within the industry, I think we better get geared up to, really roll out our sleeves, start working, start investing, start doing our part. Because I think people like Mr. Anand Swarup and the government have done their part. I think it's time for us to get up and do our part and do it at rapid pace. Now, coming back to cyber security, and I think it's a very, very critical area and element. I think my view is that I think it's cyber security is going to be a very, very high-tech war that will have to be waged, a defensive war that is going to have to be waged by countries as well as companies and large IT departments as well. But it's unfortunately the war is always a war of very severe attrition because you're dealing with very guerrilla-like tactics from hackers, and they are consistently getting better and better. So I'm not going to paint a pretty picture. I'm going to paint what is a very grave picture on a global basis. I will warn people like Anil Devli who are a part of INSA. I will warn that be careful, because in Anil, I swear this is going to be a serious issue as far as your ships are concerned. It's a threat which is going to come upon you very, very quickly, and it's already imminent. Shipping lines, freight forwarders, governments, platforms, this is going to be the highest war of attrition that we are going to face, and which is going to be a threat to our overall IT, our overall IT infrastructure, our data infrastructure, which is going to be driving the economy in the current century. But I think to fight this war of attrition, it's very important, as Prakash had mentioned earlier, Anand sir as well, that we will need to have very strong governance frameworks. And again, the government will have to play a role here, where we will define what are those norms that we need to follow. Now, who needs to follow? You will need to create, and we will need to work towards platforms, because in the end of the day, India still is a country of small and medium enterprises. We are. Our end customers, our LSPs, our CHAs, the exporters, importers, the largest proportion are small and medium companies. How are they going to afford to have the cyber security of a Maersk and a CMA, which by the way is also susceptible? How are they going to cope with that? And the way to do it is to start working on building logistics platforms, maritime platforms, which have the collective muscle, the support of the government through strong regulation and economies of scale, which will enable the small and medium businesses, which is what drives India, which drives India's logistics, its exim trade, to be resilient to this type of a threat. So again, I am requesting all our international Indian brethren, come together, listen to the government, let us work together in harmony to build a strong ecosystem, because otherwise, if you are not band mutti, and I think, we know the saying, I think Shantanuji, I'll ask you to close that for me, but it's the same thing. A fist is going to be a lot stronger than a hand, so we have to come together. That's the only way to tackle this war of attrition with cyber security. It's a very, very, very great threat. Only when we have strong platforms and economies of scale and technology will we be able to cope with it. We have to come together. We have to be a strong nation together.
Thanks, Dhruv. I think we will continue our interaction on this topic, because we can't be second. These are areas where we have to be best. And I will request participants to post their questions in Q&A. You have already seen that question of nurses is being answered, and probably the replies are music to our ears, and very optimistic. And in the meanwhile, there was a question also from Mr. Umesh Grover, which Mr. Anand Swarup has read in the Q&A and replied already while answering the registry question. So I would request the participants to put their questions in Q&A. And moving to Anil, you have heard about volume, agri-logistics. So do we expect the ship owners to add lot of capacity, buy a lot of containers, have more services out of India, since lot of supply chain initiatives will take India as a priority, even if they are not directed towards India? So what's your crystal gazing saying?
Okay, now this is entering into sensitive territory, but nevertheless, my job to do is this. So non-controversial gas, still about 60% gas is covered by foreign flag vessels. There is enough scope for Indian companies to get in and buy gas carriers. BPCL, HPCL, IOCL continuously import gas. I'd appeal to all of you here, look at buying more gas carriers. I can tell you this, that there is a lot of things that are happening which will ensure that there is a great promotion of Indian flag ships. So look at gas carriers. Crude, we carry about 40% of the FOB market today. Again, huge scope for investment. And yes, people can buy tankers. On the small trades along the coast, whether it's in bulk or small carriers, inland waterways, again, immense scope for investment. What we need is assets. I think too many people standing talking on the ground, but not many assets available on sea. And then I'll come to the most favorite issue is containers. We are happy to grow if the government wants us to grow. But currently, the government there doesn't seem to be anything happening. We were pretty much carrying all the domestic and the feeder cargo in India. One fine day, it was decided that this will be opened up to companies who are not even present in India. And that state of affairs still continues. Transshipment to foreign ports has not increased. My only joy here is to see that a lot more cargo has gone back to Kandla, which is a port that is my Karma Bhumi. And I'm not saying this because Dhruv is here. Kandla port was my Karma Bhumi. I started my domestic business out of Kandla, and I'm happy to see all that business gone there. But I think what is important is for the government to recognize that we cannot have this discrimination where Indian companies, if we carry cargo on the coast, pay 12%, 18% GST, whereas non-Indian companies carrying cargo between two Indian ports do not pay GST at all. If that is going to be the case, nobody is going to use us. So yes, we are happy to invest money. We are happy to buy containers. It may be noteworthy that from the time this cabotage has been opened up, India has not purchased even one container vessel. Prior to that, India container vessels growth was 7.5%. Worldwide, the container growth was only about 3.5%. We have grown in tankers. We have grown in LPG. Yesterday, 2 more very large gas carriers have been purchased in India. In about 14 days, we will have a large cement carrier built for India under the Indian flag. Tankers have grown, Suezmax, VLs, everything. But containers, sir, will only happen if the government decides to make it equitable. I mean, what stops tomorrow a Dhruv, for example, and I'm just taking Dhruv as an example because sitting here, to think of buying a ship? The only reason that entrepreneurs in India do not buy ships is because they don't find it attractive to buy ships, and they don't find it attractive to buy containers. And as Dhruv said, and I'll borrow his thing, we must promote Indianness in the business. And Indianness doesn't mean you have to be an Indian. Foreigners can be Indians and they can do business in India. Please come, please invest in my country. Please buy more ships. Please do whatever you need to do. Only this way India can grow. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Anil. I think we all are solidly with you that Indian container capacity has to increase, Indian container ships capacity has to increase, and probably we follow the model of other segments in shipping, particularly gas, and see that how this sector grows. Coming to you, Prakash, how do you see growth in 21? And I would particularly like your insight on the newer business models, the paradigm shift that will happen, and please try to cover in 3 minutes.
Thank you. I believe that 2020, come January 21, we will certainly see the graph going northwards, and already those signs, as earlier also was discussed. Let me give you some numbers, because what have we seen in the port volumes? They have actually grown in the month of July onwards, 10% month on month. Now, that is a fantastic growth to come. I mean, that demonstrates that, the volumes are growing and will come back. And obviously, that someone would come and say this is a demand which was, lying dormant now suddenly since the gates have opened. So that's the reason the volumes are coming up. But clearly, India is a consumption-driven economy. And considering that India is a consumption-driven economy, and also now with Atmanirbhar and also getting the Make in India going even stronger because of the geopolitical issues worldwide, India is on a path. And this path, we will see more and more fructifying by, I would say, another 1 year or in the period of that where things will change, and or as it was mentioned also about Australia, Japan, and India. I'm saying it is the worldwide. India has been looked at and said this is a viable option, because I think the world made a mistake of having all eggs in one basket, and that they want to change. So definitely 2021 onwards, we shall see the graph going northwards. There is no doubt about it. Also look at the volumes which the shipping companies are handling today. There is very big issue on getting a container, or if you get the container, you don't get the space. So this is clearly demonstrating that the businesses are coming back across the world. What can be the spoiler? The spoilers are those second waves which keep coming in until we find the vaccine and completely bring the fear element out of the minds of all the people around. Because today there is still an element of fear which takes the people back and of investing or buying goods or whatever, trading. So all those will be affected. What is important is, as I see in the future, is the unorganized sector will get more organized. Because of digitization, you will get more and more organized sectors, because how GST brought in organized trade into India. Similarly, this pandemic will bring in, because of digitization, a lot of organized business. So the unorganized business will also get organized, or will merge into organized business. So clearly that is what I see as the future. And one more very important thing which will come up more and more is end-to-end logistics. The customer is looking for end-to-end logistics now. They want one service provider to deal with everything. For example, in our company now we have also Gati, where we are able to give the surface transportation, and also we have our own EQ which can transport freight and CFSs and custom house brokers. Everything is under one roof, and this is what will be looked at by the customer, who can give me one trustworthy, transparent solution to go into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Prakash. Captain Ram, what do you see 2021? And secondly, we will be keen, we are talking digitization and all, it's all in virtual world, but ports also are very technology intensive segments, particularly for productivity and facilitating multimodalism in particular. Will you share your ideas on it in 3 minutes?
Thank you, sir. Okay, thanks, Shantanu. Now, much has been said that I'm also optimistic. I would want to be optimistic of a V-shaped recovery. I would like a plus 10%. I would like the GDP to go plus 10% every year, because my asset value can increase, but we have something called a realistic. We need to be realistic. End of the day, with World Bank saying that we're going to be, I think, the GDP forecast of World Bank was there out yesterday, minus 10%. I would be happy for India and for Haropa if we break even at the end of what was there in 1920. Realistically, I would be looking at a plus minus 5%, max minus 5% for Indian ports, and that we should be lucky with that. And as far as European Haropa ports are concerned, I think we should be happy with the plus minus 5% there too. That is the realistic factor. The rest apart, that is things can, because end of the day, this is a volatile thing. That's people could be talking about, whether it is the backlog of there was no buying over the last 6 months. This is the backlog to fill up the warehouses. All those things we can continue to debate. As far as India is concerned, we have been focusing more onto what is it called as what we have done onto agri and pharma in the last 6 months. Now, and this has found more favors now in US and Europe. As someone has said, we cannot be, as Dhruv says, cannot be China centric. We can already see the China plus one in today's scenario. Europe is today the services to Europe or anywhere, it's all chock-a-block full. Now, this is where we come in. And volumes to Europe and USA, outbound volumes is plus. The inbound volumes from there, it's still down. Because for various reasons, the global scenario is still changing. It's continuously changing. Now, as far as ports are concerned, let us like it is the play of the pandemic. It is the VUCA continues. Now one could talk about various things, but what we at Haropa has been doing. This is Haropa, we continue with the commitment to comprehensive safety and ensuring sanitizing and decontaminating marine and terminal assets. This is important because we talked about QHSC. This is top on the agenda now, especially with Europe going through the second wave, or whatever one would like to call it. These are new terminology, the second wave, all these new terminologies keep on coming with this COVID. The industry is experiencing major changes, and in response to this industry change, the port is looking at what? Ports are looking at low carbon shipping, speed and scope of digitalization, the growing cyber threat addressed wonderfully by Dhruv, and addressing safety risk introduced by the pace of change. Now, this is what we are talking about. Even in India, we are saying we have moved from a total, during this last 6 months, whether it is release of DO or release of BL, we have gone from physical to digital. And this has accelerated various processes. This is going to be that. This revolution, digitalization revolution, is bringing more possibilities for enhancing occupational safety, monitoring, revolutionizing asset management overall, and balancing. This is what we are coming in. And this is and all this can be at the center, as Dhruv pointed out, what is it called as an effective cargo community system. And when Mr. Swarupji talked about the National Logistic Platform, lovely idea. This is one of the most wonderful platform for every one of us to come on board and to be part, and how we can collectively share and make the flow of cargo, exim cargo, smooth. It is like, it needs to be as a pipeline, beautifully going on, each one going, like we talk about blockchain and all these things, nothing else plus, but a effective, seamless flow. And we need to start on this national logistic platform. And I think we should start off at the very beginning with an effective port community system, effective cargo committee system, port committee system, moving on to the cargo committee system, and the extent to which we manage all these things will determine the factor of our ability to move ahead in years to come. Stop it.
Thank you, Ram. I think before I hand over to Mr. Ram Prasad, Mr. Anand Swarup, there are two questions for you. Number one is Mr. Arijit Mukherjee wants to know about Sagarmala project. I had requested what specifically wants to know. Maybe if you have an update, please share your update. And my colleague Zarsis wants to know about how government has planned to prevent cyber attacks which can cripple our economy. Maybe if you have any ideas, you can share about it.
Thank you for both the questions. As you rightly pointed out, Sagarmala is a very ambitious program of the government of India, which is port-led development. So one of the things which is happening now is there's a lot of port land which is available with major ports. So there is a thinking, how do we start monetizing that land for more cargo to the ports? So that's one area which is on, some work is already on, and hopefully over the next few months, we'll see something happening on that. Secondly, the important component of Sagarmala is faster evacuations and ingress to the ports. So a lot of projects have been planned that, how do you say Chennai port, it is within a town now. Mumbai JNPT port, an elevated road is being planned. So there are some projects which are being planned wherever required elevated roads that connect to the highways. So that's one which is happening on Sagarmala. But if he requires more information, I'll request him to get in touch with the Ministry of Shipping, or I'll provide him more details. So far as cybersecurity is concerned, of course, it's a very important issue, but I'm not as technical as Dhruv. So I'll leave that to Dhruv to answer that, or maybe from somebody from Ministry of METI for that. Thank you.
Mr. Ram Prasad, will you like to take over, or we have one more round of last comments from everyone?
If there is anything to be covered, in fact, everyone is looks like charged up, and we heard so much from Mr. Anand Swarup. He has really set an agenda, gave a lot of opportunities coming up in agri-logistics or preparation of this national registry. These are really, really wonderful programs. Sir, in the morning when I was moderating one session, there was a request from both the terminals and shipping lines. There is a huge data available in our country in terms of exports, imports, commodity-wise, region-wise. So the question is, how do we analyze the data and use the business intelligence? Today, artificial intelligence has been helping a lot of the verticals, whether if you look at health sector and other sectors. See, what is happening is nobody wants to know who the shipper is, what he is doing. We want, suppose a certain commodity from the West Coast is moving into another destination port. How is it moving? How much volumes and all that? This analytics will plan for the industry to be more cost-efficient solutions. But the problem is an agency which is under your ministry, which is based in Kolkata, we have been trying to talk to them and then put some sense. A huge data is available with them, but they are not willing to share it. And they get all the data from all the ports, from the customs, everything. And it is stored in tons, and somebody has to rationalize that data, create some valuable products for the industry to use it. So you have been taking a lot of initiatives sitting there in the logistics department. I think this is one request from our side. Only you can do.
No, thank you so much. In fact, it's music to my ears. Yesterday, we had a meeting where GSTN was willing to offer their data. People keep on telling us there is a lot of empty trucks returning. And if somebody is able to optimize the empty return, so GST was willing to offer that data, that the e-way bill data would be made available to the industry. The industry would know this is the inventory of trucks in a city. Once you close that e-way bill and offer your truck on a common digital platform, and then people can. But yesterday the meeting was there, and I was very surprised that the industry was not very keen to use that data. So similarly, what data you require, DGCIS already publishes that data every month. But the digital platform, as I was mentioning in the beginning, which we are creating, that is one window where you will be able to see in another 6 months' time, what is the product flow happening in my country? What is the lead time? How many kilometers, say, cement moves in India? What is the average, in which state, what product comes, from where it comes? So that would all be visible. That data we are trying to get through the e-way bill.
Thank you very much, sir. Shantanu-ji, I think that's the question from my side, and you would like to conclude?
Well, I think we had wonderful panelists, and it's always good to be optimistic, but we were so optimistic, I think I can plan a big vacation and still expect 10 or 12% growth. And if my fellow panelists also do that, then I will say, yes, they mean what they say. So maybe we all of us have a big vacation because we have stayed at home for 1 year, like most of us. By this time, I would have made at least 15, 16 trips, at least half of them within India, half of them abroad. That is the least we could have done. But we are grounded, and nice to have optimism. And I think there is an economic theory which says that economics is driven by sentiments. When people are optimistic, they spend, they invest, and that is where the priming of economy takes place. So I think thanks to the fellow panelists for keeping optimism, and I will track your schedules and see whether you are going for long vacation or even business trip. I think Anil has raised a finger. He wants to say something before I close.
having sat at home for so long, the only vacation now is to go to office.
Sorry, I'm Shantanuji. I think you forgot what I said. I think I'm optimistic, and therefore we all have to forget vacations. We've got to work like dogs now. So
Yeah.
we've got to work really hard. So Anand sir is watching. So no holidays for anyone, at least in our industry.
I think once I know the way government has operated during pandemic, let me share. We had meeting at 11 o'clock on a Sunday, 11 o'clock night. So that's how the government is working, and I will also share what Mr. Anand Swarup told us even before pandemic. Like they have been calling us for meeting with 1 day's notice. So I told him, why don't you look into it? Give us 1 week time to plan. He said, no, consider this as a new or normal. Learn to come for meeting at 1 day's notice and better come prepared because you are in for serious discussions. With this, I think that's how the government is thinking, and let's all rise. I think Ram, you will have the last word.
No.
Unless Mr. Anand Swarup also wants to tell us another new normal, we will be ready for it.
No, I don't want to have the last word. I just want to say a simple thing that hats off to the entire Indian logistics service providers. They all work day in and day out, whether this is the new normal, what we are talking about. Like every one of us, whether it's a truck driver or it's a port worker or everyone in India or globally, they all work beyond their call. And this is what has kept the global trade and our economy going. And a big round of applause to the logistic industry under your things. So this is what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It was a very enlightful panel discussion we had. Thanks to Anand Swarup Garu, Anil Devli Garu, and Prakash Tulsiani, Captain Ram, and Dhruv Kotak, and finally Shantanuji. While concluding, just let me share with you my experience. Looks like that all of you have not traveled for quite some time, but in the last couple of months, I have traveled at least 5 cities, met a lot of people, and then I could see a lot of vibrancy outside when I visited these cities. Normal people, they are getting back to normal, and with the utmost precaution. Now they are getting used to take the precautions and then get on with their work. So definitely things would be normal. In the morning session also, our industry experts shared the same kind of passion and positiveness that it will bounce back, and then we are looking forward to, with all the lessons learned, we absorb the new experiences and then move on and then refine our ways of doing business and then move forward. On that note, once again, thank you very much. We look forward to see you soon. Thank you very much.
Namaskar.
Namaste.